Let's do this. Hello, people. Good morning. Good afternoon. Another beautiful day. Yeah. Hope your five senses work. Health and strength is good, or excellent, or perfect. What? What's up, gamers? Okay. Square Enix. What is it? What is this nonsense about hiding our Final Fantasy's age? You know, age is just a number, huh? If you remove the age from the number from Final Fantasy, right? Does that stop Final Fantasy from being Final Fantasy? No. Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy. We gamers know what to expect when it comes to Final Fantasy. So the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, the 10, the 11, the 12 is just the years of. It just means that the years of Final Fantasy Final Fantasy existed. Listen to this. What's up, PCN Games? Says here, Final Fantasy games should drop the number. Even Yoshida thinks so. Oh, Mr. Yoshida, let me ask you a question. Why are you scared of a number? Anyway, it says here, Noki Yoshida talks about removing the number naming convention from Final Fantasy games and how it would happen to the RPG game series in the future. The number on Final Fantasy, it represents longevity. So Mr. Yoshida, stop tripping. Anyway, says here, the Final Fantasy game use a number of early system. Final Fantasy uses a number entry system could be dropped from after Final Fantasy 16. As a producer on the series, I acknowledge how can it be confusing for few players between many different RPG games universe, the MMO, and even spin-off as well. While this won't change before Final Fantasy 16 date, it looks like it's been brought to Square Enix before. Leave the number alone and just keep making your game, Square Enix. The number represents longevity. Okay? Leave it alone. Anyway, it says here, talks of number entry system came from Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 16 producer Nokia Yoshida, who aware of how it can be confusing to players and turn them away from specific mainline entries and spin-off in the series. No, it's not. The number doesn't turn people off. It's just a number. Anyway, it says here, a lot of players are going to come in and they're going to look at it like comic books were to read from the beginning to know what's going on. And now it's hard for marketing because every number title that we release in the series, we have to go into it like it's okay. You don't have to play the rest of them and stay in the GQ interview. Stop it. If you all want to know what Final Fantasy's universe is about, you play the first one all the way up to present, and then you will understand what Final Fantasy is about. Okay, but you got to be ready for it. But anyway, it says here, for all of us longtime fans, Final Fantasy mini release make absolute sense, as each number basically translates to an entry different universe. So Final Fantasy 7 and 16 are filled with different history, lore, characters, and ideas. This also clears at glance when you realize one is a steampunk setting and the other fantasies, but for new fans it can be really confusing. So getting rid of the number has actually been put on to table before. Trust me, new fans of Final Fantasy, it won't be confusing. All you got to do, if you want to learn what Final Fantasy is about so you can catch up, start playing Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the picture. But anyway, it says here, the actual setting, that actually sometime that I have discussed with higher ups. Yoshida tells GQ, maybe it's about time we remove the number from the title. For example, you have Final Fantasy 14, you get a new player come in and it's like, wait a minute, why do I have to play Final Fantasy 14 if 16 is out? Why don't we just call it Final Fantasy Online? Just get rid of the number altogether, and that makes it easier to understand. Then he says here, Whether Final Fantasy 17 or Final Fantasy 18 should have a number or not, that's going to be on whoever has to develop the game and whoever is in charge of the branding. So that's their problem, not ours. Facts. Says here, while image of Yoshida resigning himself from having to deal with problems put a massive smile on my face, he raises a very good point. Things start to get even muddier when you realize there's a Final Fantasy X2, Final Fantasy 13 sequel that flips the name to Lightning Round, Final Fantasy 13, and a new spin-off as well. In terms of the following, a set structure, even Final Fantasy as a whole is a mess. So anyone entering the first time is going to leave with headaches. Anyone that stuck with the series gets it, and that's great. But it does tend to create confusion when you get into MMO, and on top of some vastly different RPG experience. And it says here, the PC future of Final Fantasy 16 remains a bit up in the air right now too, as vague information was eventually cleared up to confirm that it will be released 6 months after PlayStation 5's version. Yoshida say it will come out while after 6 months exclusivity period, so it's going to be 2024 at the earliest. While that is certainly disappointing, there are still some of the best Final Fantasy games available on PC right now, with some great upcoming games on the way too. Look. For instance, let me give you an example. I'm gonna use Zelda for a minute. I played Zelda Link to the Past, completed it. I played Link's Awakening, though even the one before Link to the Past. When it came to why is Ocarina of Time so special? When Ocarina of Time was made, Ocarina of Time opened the floodgates when it came to Zelda games. Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, they all came from Ocarina of Time. Why? Because the moment you leave the forest and you came through that little, you came onto Hyrule Field for the first time, it became clear. Zelda needs to be open world. And also, Zelda needs to be an MMO. I've been saying this for years. Now, when it comes to Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy. It was a different. Final Fantasy 1 started it off with one story, and then it opens another universe, and then it opens a universe in Final Fantasy 1. Then it carries over into Final Fantasy 2. Another story happens, another world, another universe. Then Final Fantasy 3, and then another world, another universe. Then it came to 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. 7 put PlayStation on the map, by the way. Then 8, then 9, then 10, then 11. 10-1 and 10-2, then 11, then 12. Final Fantasy 12 is when it became evident that the game needs to be open world. Okay, so because Final Fantasy 12 gave you the freedom of movement, plus you can move around in battles. And in the other Final Fantasies, it's like when you got into a battling system, right? You got into a battle. It was like, okay, this person hit me, then I get to hit them, or I hit them first and they hit me. I couldn't move around like I wanted to. When it came to 12, that's when everything changed. Now Final Fantasy can go into an open world settings. Now I have a freedom of movement, and I can do whatever I want. So when it comes to the number, when it comes to understanding Final Fantasy, for new gamers, they have to have, number one, they need to have time on their side. That's number one. Number two, they gotta have patience. And number three, they gotta accept the challenges that Final Fantasy bring to complete 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1, 13, 2. You got to complete all the Final Fantasies to get into that world and the universe to understand how Final Fantasy works. And don't let the number bother you, because the number is just the years. The number just represent the years and the longevity Final Fantasy been around. So if you want to get into Final Fantasies, you got to start off with the first game, the second game, learn the system, learn the story, and once you do all that, you will understand what Final Fantasy is about. Now, as far as like Final Fantasy being an MMO, well, it would be like say like how Call of Duty has a battle royale. You have to have a story mode in Final Fantasy, but at the same time you can also have an open world. So a MMO in Final Fantasy is not gonna hurt the series. You know, it's not gonna hurt the series at all. You know, the MMO is just for every bring a lot of people to play together, but you still can make the single player experience, and you can complete the story and stuff like that. So open world Final Fantasy or MMO, it's not gonna hurt it's not gonna hurt the Final Fantasy franchise. You just got to get into those games. If those are your type of games, get into them. You know, don't let the numbers scare you. You know, if you're a new player, do not let the number scare you. The number is just the longevity of how long the series been out, and the different spin-offs, the different games that they have, like the ones on the like the GameCube, like the GameCube, the ones on the Super Nintendo. How did they? I mean, the ones on like ones on the Super Nintendo, the ones on the GameCube. Those are I mean, the ones on the Super Nintendo, that's Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3. But the one on the GameCube, like Crystal Chronicle, that's another part of the Final Fantasy universe. The ones on the Xbox 360, that's another part of Final Fantasy. So don't let the number, when it comes to Final Fantasy, scare you. Don't let it scare you. Why so many Final Fantasies? Why we got so many? And the thing about these RPGs, you gotta have the patience, and the time and the endurance to complete all of them. And you got to accept you got to learn all the combat system and you got to get into the stories and how this whole game came about and why, and learn the combat system, learn the controls, the combat system, everything. And that's the joy about Final Fantasy game. When it comes to playing them, you got to get into it, and learn everything about that game, and that way you can enjoy them instead of worrying about a number and then why is there Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Why is there so many Final Fantasy? Why is there a Final Fantasy MMO? That's not even an issue. That's not even an issue. The issue with the issue you will have a Final Fantasy is this. Okay, do I enjoy these type of game? Is this my type of game? Am I up for the challenge in this game with no one's help? Do I love a challenge? Do I love to what's that word? Grind to get through the entire game? Stuff like that. Those are the little things you worry about. But as far as the number goes, Forget it. Don't worry about it, man. I could say the same thing about Sonic. Why is it? I mean, the same thing goes for Sonic. You know, fans of Sonic, they don't worry about the numbers. They just want a new chapter to the game. You know, they love all the Sonic games they play. No matter if some of them get pushback or sometimes people might say something negative. The Sonic fans, they love Sonic. It's the same thing with Mario. You know, so don't let the numbers scare you. You know, the thing about Final Fantasy, you know, the question is, you know, the question you got to ask yourself is like, okay, is this your type of game? You know, can I complete these games? You know, am I up for the challenge? Am I up for the task? Am I ready for these games? You know, yeah, and you gotta, yeah, and you gotta love, and if you're a person that likes stories, yeah, then that game is for you. You know, so. The MMO part of Final Fantasy is another icing to the it's another icing to the cake of Final Fantasy. So don't let the number scare you, man. Don't let the number I think I got some around here. Don't let the number scare you when it comes to Final Fantasy. They're all good, you know. The question is, you know, you got to ask yourself is, okay, when it comes to this game, is this my type of game? Do I love this game? You know what I'm saying? Am I ready for this type of game? Am I up for the challenge? Am I up to the task? Can I complete this game? You know, stuff like that. It's a whole lot of preparation before you get into these games, man. And don't let nobody don't let Yoshida, don't let Mr. Yoshida with his I'm gonna say with himself complaining about the number. The number is just the year of longevity the game been around, you know. So if you've been keeping up with Final Fantasy, then the number doesn't bother you one bit. It's just people. There's a lot of people that love these games, you know. I could say the same thing for like what's a game that's got the same amount of longevity. You got that's how people you could say the same thing for people who love Call of Duty. They've been following that series for years, ever since it came out. Warzone was just another icing to the cake of Call of Duty. Okay, they're waiting for the new one right now. They're just waiting, you know. I could say the same thing about people who love Phantasy Star, you know, or people that love the Mana series, people that love the Tales series. You know, there are some when it comes to this video game stuff, they are some hardcore fans of certain series of games. They're not worried about the number. They just want the next adventure and the next challenge and the next mission to complete in the game. So that's how the gaming industry is, man. So don't worry about the number. Don't let it scare you. You know, I could say for people who love sports games, people who love Madden games, people who love NBA 2K. You know, people who like hockey games. People who like tennis games, people who like racing games, Need for Speeds, Gran Turismo, Forza, Formula One type racing games. You know, I mean, when it comes to these games, every one of these games got their own little clans, their own little cliques, their own little army, their own little legion, squad, whatever you want to call it. I mean, yeah, that's how they are. So when it comes to this Final Fantasy stuff, man, and numbers, don't worry about that stuff. Mr. Yoshida is talking nonsense. He's talking nonsense when it comes to this Final Fantasy stuff. The Final Fantasy is a grind, man. That game is a grind, you know. But once you get into it and you learn it, and you become once you get into it and you learn it, and those games, I mean, if it ain't the you'll love something about those games. If it ain't the story, it's the gameplay, it's the artwork, it's the music, it's a whole bunch of stuff, you know. So You know, when it comes to those games, man, it's not about the number. You know, the MMO. Look, the MMO of Final Fantasy is just another icing into the cake of Final Fantasy. Don't let that number scare you. Okay? Do not let that number scare you. There's some hardcore Final Fantasy fans. Some of them got the Super Nintendo versions of Final Fantasy. Plus they got whatever console Final Fantasy is on. They got all those games just because they love the series. You know, so yeah, people collect games in different ways. You know, so when it comes to like Zelda games, Zelda fans are the same way. You know. They got all the Zelda games on all the different consoles, on all the consoles. They just love the series. Same thing with Final Fantasy. Same thing with the Mana series, with the what's that? The Chrono series, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. I don't think they made another one, but you know, anything that Square Enix touch, they just love it. So when it comes to these games, man, when it comes to Final Fantasy, do not let the number scare you. The question you got to ask yourself is this: is this my type of game? And are you prepared to accept the challenges that the game brings and all that? You know, so yeah, you know, and each one of these, each Final Fantasy is filled with a puzzle a puzzle or a formula that you got to that you have to solve. You know. And every boss that you face is different, and you got to figure out a strategy how to beat the boss. I'm not saying you take a cheat code and beat the boss. No, I'm talking about you use your brain and your intelligence to complete that game. So yeah, don't let the numbers scare you, man. Those games are good, you know. So yeah, there are some hardcore Final Fantasy fans out there, very hardcore. That's the only game they care about, and if there's Final Fantasy on an Xbox system, they will get it. If it's on the PlayStation, they will get it. If it's on PC, they're gonna get it because they love that universe. So yeah, man, don't let the numbers scare you. You know, for new gamers, you want to enjoy the series, start from the bottom. You know, work your way up. You know, and try to complete that game. You know, try to get all the guides. For it, and then take your time, and then go through every game, and then see how from the first game all the way up to the one that they're coming out with now, how it all came to be. So you'll get used. You'll get used to it. You'll enjoy the challenge, but the number, nah. There's so many Final Fantasies. They're very challenging, I mean, the thing about Final Fantasy too, every Final Fantasy player got a couple of them that they like, that they really like. You know, everybody's opinion is different. So number, nah, don't let it scare you, man. Anyway, latest video for y'all to enjoy. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still Star Wars and Star Trek flying. Okay, peace.